When I moved here to Northwest Arkansas, I was an atheist. I had been an atheist since, I would say, my senior year in high school. It made most sense to me that there was no God. There was no other real thought about it. I went through a lot of trials and tribulations. It never made me think about God. I went through some very painful experiences. Never made me think about God. What I know now is that I was very closed to the world out of pain and trauma. And so it took me a long time to accept the gospel, not because it didn't make sense to me, but because it challenged where I was as a person. At this point, this is, let's say, 2010, 2011, I'm working in a lab in the chemical engineering department pursuing my PhD. And in that lab is Dr. Heather Walker. She was essentially my manager. We had a very close working relationship. And having her to talk these things through with became a vital part of my journey. Previous experiences I've had, and when I've been given the impression, when I was an atheist, I was often given the impression that people were just trying to check a box. I would say that my conversations with Heather were a lot different than most of those conversations because she was interested in me as a person. Hours of conversations took place. I would say over about a year. They would have me over for dinner at times, and I got to know her husband Doug and their 3 daughters pretty well. And eventually I started going to church with them. When I first started going to fellowship, I really wasn't very close to becoming a Christian. The thing that drew me there was I had grown up without a family. They had made me feel like I was a part of the family, and that was a very big draw for me. In the spring of 2013, I'd been asked by my close friend to do a reading for his Catholic Mass wedding. And he'd give me the choice of Old Testament reading or New Testament reading. I chose the New Testament reading, and it was the classic 1 Corinthians love part. I did the reading, and I sat down, and I realized that I was forced, by reading that out loud, I was forced to realize that I believed it. Now, of course, I realized that believing that love is patient and love is kind does not make you a Christian. That wasn't what did it. It was having to read from the Bible aloud made me realize that I believed the gospel. I believed that the God of the Bible is real. I believed in the redemptive story of Christ. There was still part of me that didn't want to believe it, by the way, but I did believe it. I knew it then, and I still know it. So looking back on my journey, what stands out more than anything is Heather's influence. Her constant presence, loving presence, relationship with the family. I remember having this conversation with her not long after I accepted Jesus, and I said, with wonder, I said that you acted as God's representative in my life. And she did. She never got impatient. She never made me think that our friendship depended on where I was. She trusted God through that process. And for me personally, that was vital. We really are called to be God's representative in people's lives. It can be small moments, it can be big moments. We never know what our impact is going to be. And I obviously fail at that often, but I try to remember Heather's example of being a part of unbelievers' lives out of love.